Now the next question is, since April 1, 2000, interest on savings bank account is payable on the what? Before 2010, interest on savings bank, how it was paid? It was paid on the minimum balance between 10th and 30th. For first 10 days, whatever is the balance, bank will not take into account. Between 10th and 30th, whatever is the minimum balance, that will be paid. It was convenient for the bank because they need not pay unnecessarily. Suppose on 10th, if customer has got 10,000 rupees, on 12th he has got 5 lakhs. But bank will pay only interest on 10,000. On the 5 lakhs balance, interest will not be paid. It was convenient for the bank and very inconvenient for the customer. It's a loss for the customer. Because he is keeping that 5 lakhs for 19 days, he is not entitled to any interest. Therefore, after computerization, Reserve Bank of India has taken into consideration the welfare of the customers. It has come out with a very clear guideline. Interest on savings bank must be paid on a daily basis. Whatever is the credit balance in the account daily, on that interest must be paid. And no other system of interest calculation should be done. So the answer to this question is, interest since April 2010, interest on savings bank account is payable on the daily balance basis. Very important thing, because it is very, very beneficial to the customer. Otherwise he will be losing lot of otherwise eligible interest. The next question is, floating rate of interest is the rate which is, the options are decided by the bank arbitrarily, linked with another relevant rate, fixed by the Indian Banks Association, notified by the Reserve Bank of India. Which is the correct option? Now suppose you take a housing loan. Now whenever you take a housing loan, there are two options available to you. One is that you can take a floating rate interest and another one is fixed rate interest. In fixed rate, the rate will be fixed in advance throughout the period, or for the first 5 years or first 10 years as the case may be. The rate will be fixed in spite of various changes that are happening in the interest rate scenario. On the other hand, if you opt for a floating rate of interest, it will be set to a benchmark. The benchmark earlier was base rate. Now Reserve Bank of India has recently changed it to marginal cost of lending rate. So the floating rate will not be arbitrarily fixed by the bank. It will be fixed to a benchmark rate, which is the marginal cost of lending rate, based on the marginal 32% over marginal cost of lending rate or 3% over marginal cost of lending rate. That is how the interest floating rates are provided to the customers. So if the MCLR is increased, then your floating rate will go up. If MCLR is decreased, your floating rate will come down. That is the very purpose for which we are going in for a floating rate. The benefit of, the interest rates are now going south, that is, it is going down. So if you take a floating rate housing loan, it will be advantageous to you in the current scenario. You cannot tell about future. In the current scenario, this is good. And all floating interest rates are always linked with some relevant rate. And it is the marginal cost of lending rate in today's situation. Now let us go to the next question. MICR refers to what? What is the expansion for MICR? This is a very common question. This has been asked a number of times and they continue to ask this question in many of the exams. And an understanding of this is very essential. What is MICR? What was the need? Actual explanation is magnetic ink character recognition. What was the need for India to have MICR? I will tell you before MICR how was the situation. Then you will automatically understand what is MICR, why the MICR is needed. I was working in Andheri. I was working in my bank's Andheri branch as clearing in charge. Every day, it was a branch, we had about 30-40 staff and 3 fellows were doing clearing. I was the chief of these 3 fellows. and we used to get something around 3,000 to 4,000 checks a day. And all these checks will have to be manually entered in a book, totaled, tallied to the paisa. And that is not the game is not over. The really game starts now. Now this has to be sorted bank wise. Nearly 100 banks are there. Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, State Bank of India, State Bank of Travancore. Name, you have got nearly 100 banks who are members of the clearing. So all these 3,000 checks have to be physically sorted. We used to give it to a peon who was a very, very efficient man. You and I cannot do the job. So what he will do, he has been doing it for so many 20 years and all by virtue, there will be some small pigeon holes. Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, State Bank of India, like pigeon holes. There will be a big bureau with a lot of pigeon holes, and this fellow will stand before the pigeonhole bureau and then simply throw the checks. Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, Indian Overseas Bank. He will be throwing it at a very high speed because he is used to it. And if one day he doesn't come, then you had it. Or one day he goes on strike, or one day you are in bad books with him. Instead of throwing it to Bank of India, he will throw it to the Bank of Baroda. Then the check will get returned, and you will get the you will hear music from your boss. So this is a very big business, and all this have to be completed before 12 o'clock. You start your business at 10 o'clock, and before 12 o'clock the entire listing should be told, must be there, and then it should be sorted bank wise. So it is a very cumbersome business, very manually, very laborious business. And that it was a small bank. I was in a small branch of a small bank. Think of big banks like State Bank of India. And they would have getting 10,000 checks, and they have to do the same process. So this was becoming humanly impossible to manage. Many days clearing will be closed. Clearing will not tally. Some banks will not go for clearing. Some banks will not carry all the checks. So many gadbad was there. Then we introduced MICR. This concept was borrowed from USA. What they had done in USA, in all the checks, they had added a code. The MICR code, what is this MICR code? It is a magnetic ink character code. What it was doing? It was only identifying each branch of a bank by a unique number. For example, 4 followed by 4 zeros, 2009 is the MICR code of SBI Andheri West. Now, this code, what it does, the first 400, the first 3 digits, it represents the city Mumbai. The second 3 digits, 002, represents the bank code for SBI. And the third 3 digit, 009, the last 3 digits represents the bank branch of Andheri West. So this MICR code uniquely identifies the location of the branch of a given bank. That's all. Now we will print it in magnetic ink on each check leaf. That is why it is called a MICR check. What is the advantage? Now we have to enter it manually in the same scenario. Now I will tell you what is the scenario after MICR. So I had 3 assistants, all these fellows will enter. We get about 3,000 checks. There is no sorting done by us. No need for this pigeonhole, dependence on substaff for doing the job, mistake in doing it, and hurry. All these things are completely removed. Simply you give the check, bundle it and hand it over, and it will go to the service branch. In the service branch, they will have a huge machine. It is called the Sorter Reader sorter of MICR. I have provided this machine in the the picture of the machine. It will be occupying a big room, 10 by 15 room it will be occupying. So what the manager will do is, suppose I send 3,000 rupees, the service branch manager will put the 3,000 checks in one place, and he will start the machine. The machine will suck the check by air. Like that it will suck all the check, and it will run all the checks one after other. It will run at very high speed, and it will be going through rollers which can read the MICR. The amount, everything will be in MICR code. Amount will be there. Everything will be there in MICR code, and then After that, it will come. You can see in the machine there are lot of small slots in which the check will fall. Bank of Baroda will fall in one place, Indian Overseas Bank will fall in another slot, State Bank will fall in another slot. So after sorting, it will give the total amount of the check, bank wise how much, branch wise how much, all will be available. For 3000 checks to be sorted, it will take 2 to 3 minutes. So only after MICR clearing was introduced in Bombay, it was the first introduced in Bombay, because Bombay clearing even today is the biggest clearing of India. So when it was started in Bombay clearing only, then only this huge labor, unnecessary unwanted labor resulting in huge confusion, all this was avoided, and the machine did all this in a few 10 minutes or 20 minutes. The entire checks will be sorted branch wise, bank wise, and the amount will be printed. You will get the printout. All you have to do is you have to bundle all the check, bundle this printout, then go to the clearing house, hand over the checks to the concerned bank. That's all. Therefore, MICR check gave a huge relief for many banks.